everyone. Welcome back to The Flow. This is a podcast where we aim to learn and spread awareness of the lethal effects of period poverty. It's a public health crisis that affects hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Follow along on our journey as we go with the flow.
So starting off, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So my name is Swathi. I'm going to be an epidemiologist, so I'm studying public health right now. And I worked in a chapter of Period, which is a national organization. And it basically was aiming to have like local grassroots efforts in Southeast Michigan to lessen the effects of period poverty in the area so that it would strengthen a national movement.
Nice. So, following up with that, what would you say was your biggest, I guess, aha moment? Like, what inspired you most to start
Mhm.
volunteering for this organization?
Yeah, so when I would say it's kind of linked with the aha moment I had with public health because, period poverty and public health are very interlinked. But basically, I just kind of realized how refugee and immigrant women, especially, like, are left out of this conversation constantly. And, women from other cultures may not be like as open about their period and stuff like that. And that's not to say that that's wrong, but we need to basically make products more accessible for these communities without making them uncomfortable. Because just because they don't want to openly like scream about their period, it doesn't mean that they're oppressed. It's just it's a different culture. And I noticed that this was left out of the conversation, and it was something I really wanted to change.
Right, that kind of stigma that comes with the period, it really just makes it harder for women who are going through period poverty because it's not even necessarily that, like, if a woman is like, maybe she doesn't necessarily want to talk about her period, like you said, like as openly as other women might want to, like, well, she might need help though, like she might be struggling, and that's why I think we just kind of need to make it comfortable, like make women feel safe, like, hey, like, you don't have to be super open and super loud if you don't want to, like, it's up to you, your comfort level, but we need to make it, like you said, period products accessible and just make it a safe environment for them to feel comfortable if they want to ask for help.
And something I noticed a lot was, so tampons, right? They're generally cheaper. And so for a lot of period product drives, people would just be like pushing tampons because they're cheaper, so you can get more generally. But for a lot of women with other cultures, like that's not something that they're comfortable with. And especially if you're talking about like older refugee women or older immigrant women, like it's very impractical to assume that after having like so many years of experience with the period and using a pad, that they would all of a sudden switch to a tampon, and like it can be a really uncomfortable experience for them.
Of course,
Mm-hmm.
like, some women just prefer pads,
Yeah.
and that's their right, like, it's okay, like, they're like, some women like tampons better, some women like pads better, some women are cool with both. But I think that, like, that's a really good point for you to bring up, like, it shouldn't just be like, oh, well, here's accessible tampons. It's like, no, here's accessible tampons and pads, and a lot of women now like menstrual cups or um period underwear, even. Just make it all accessible. Women have different preferences, and women have different periods too, like everyone has different flow, everyone has a different need.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely something I haven't really thought about until y'all brought it up. But like, I guess quantity, it doesn't really matter if it makes you uncomfortable. Like, it doesn't matter how many tampons you give someone. If they're uncomfortable using it, what good is that? That's not like the goal.
Exactly. And in Southeast Michigan, especially, like a lot of refugees from out of countries come here, and there's just like a lot of immigrant populations as well. And, I've noticed that there is this really, but the period poverty movement around here tends to be very like white feminist oriented. So they kind of view these women as like oppressed and like helpless, and like the fact that, they try and like force tampons on them or like force them to be super loud about it, and it's just not really helpful. So it's kind of like what you guys are saying, just making things more accessible and comfortable for everyone.
Right, and not even everyone, like regardless of whether or not you have access to tampons, some women just don't even have an interest in tampons, and some women, I mean, have you come across girls, like not even just like full grown women, because I know that like young girls, I mean, you get your period when you're like in middle school and you're maybe are not ready to use a tampon.
Exactly. Yeah, no. So a lot of the girls that I've met like from these different communities or cultures, like when they're of that age, they're very much like comfortable with what the woman and their family are comfortable with. So, for someone external to come in and be like, oh, like put this here, like, it's just a very uncomfortable experience for them and they're just not ready for that. So, yeah, it's not just older women, it's also, like you said, much younger girls.
Right. I mean, women also have daughters, right? And like if you can't, I mean, it's just you got to have pads available too. Like I'm Hispanic, and in the Hispanic culture, some girls and women are not comfortable using tampons for different reasons. But so I can just imagine like if like all of a sudden they had a bunch of tampons available, they would probably be like, oh, do I choose this because I need it right now? Or do I have to choose this over like kind of my personal preferences and beliefs? It's like, shouldn't have to choose. So,
Right. Of course. Mhm.
so I'm sorry, Talia, do you want to ask a question?
Sorry. I was just wondering, how do you think people can work to accommodate and work with people who might want to not use tampons or have different beliefs or just comfortability levels?
Yeah. So I think a big thing is instead of, you know, like trying to push for tampons, like I mentioned before, a lot of period product drives really try and push for tampons, which, understandably, like you can get more. But I think instead of that, if you like ease off of that and instead are welcoming like this inflow of pads, especially if you're, providing products for a refugee or immigrant organization, um like that would really help a lot. And also another thing with period underwear, which I think Samantha you mentioned earlier, is it's also very helpful for like lower income populations like of these communities because they're reusable.
Yeah.
So if you can get donations for those as well, like that completely eliminates their need of even needing to go back to these organizations for more products because they would just have enough to use for like years.
Yeah, and it's a one time, like you have it and you use it for a while, like you could use them for years, but like with all the single use products, like that's not sustainable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
One question that I have is, this is an issue that is a big deal. It affects a lot of people, yet it's so not well known. It's not talked about very much. Why do you think that is? Like, if it's so urgent and if it's so like important and so many people are being affected, why aren't people like talking about it enough?
Right. And I mean, that's something we notice with period products being treated as like luxury items, even just in policy. And like, even when you talk to a lot of people in power, they seem to think that period products are like a luxury. Like, it's not essential the way like toilet paper or soap is, but I mean, it is, like it's very
Yeah.
much essential. But unfortunately, we do have like a history of like public health and healthcare having models that focus very much on men and their needs. So even if you look at like some of the original studies done on like medicine tolerance, like how much you should take, they were always done on men who have different like body compositions and women, obviously. So when you have that history, like something that's generally only used for women or just non-cisgender men, like you're gonna have these products be viewed as unessential because they're not essential to men, right? And unfortunately, we even see this with the pandemic. Like the period poverty crisis has like gotten so much worse because like unemployment rates have gone up, like the amount of people living under the poverty line has gone up as well. And like there's just less products available, but like you don't hear anything about it because again, this is not something that most policymakers see as essential, unfortunately.
Yeah, and poverty affects women and people who menstruate more disproportionately compared to men.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And even like, yeah, just people who menstruate, like transgender men or even non-binary people are even more likely to be homeless and experience that. So, yeah.
You know, people like men who think that like period products are luxury items. They think we like asked for our period or something. Like they think that like we like it was like our choice. Like actually no, I didn't ask for this to happen to me, okay? But I am asking that you don't put like a $9 price tag on a box of tampons.
Exactly.
Really? Plus tax after I mean, scam. Like that is just
I mean, period products are definitely very expensive, and I know recently they've become tax deductible, and while that is, I guess, a step forward, it's not enough.
Right. Hmm.
And something you said before about, like policymakers not making it a priority, I think it's because most of them are men. And
Exactly.
while like this shouldn't be a political issue, it kind of is and it kind of isn't, because we just need more like women politicians that know the issues that like we need fixed.
Yeah,
yeah.
and I
I
think oh,
I'm
it
sorry.
goes past just like the individual level. Like there's systematic barriers that prevent people from being able to afford tampons or period products, and yeah. And then it forces people to have to resort to means that are unsafe and could cause more harm, like using rags or using cotton balls, and like
Socks, yeah. We interviewed these two ladies last week, and they said something I hadn't even thought about this. Like I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize this, but with like COVID and everything, not only are people out of work, not making money, struggling like never before, um, if you're a woman with an underlying condition, maybe you don't even want to put the risk out there of going to the store and getting what you need because you don't want to get sick. And like when she said that, I was like, wow, you're so right, because exposure, and it's like this pandemic has just, I mean, been destructive. Like it's just been really, it made a huge impact. And I want to know, like, how have you seen this pandemic affect period poverty this past year?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think like you just mentioned, even with like women who have underlying conditions, like that fear of needing to go out and get products. But I also think obviously as the amount of people who've lost their jobs and the amount of people in poverty has increased, we see obviously period poverty increase. But another thing I would say is that a lot of initiatives that were pushing for free period products to be available in public bathrooms was a huge thing before the pandemic started. And, it was actually a major way that a lot of people were able to even get these products if they couldn't afford it, especially, which was super important. And, now even like with the pandemic, we don't have public bathrooms anymore. And like, unfortunately, that there is still a stigma there. So to have them like publicly in display in a place where people can just grab them is not really an option either. So a lot of these initiatives have kind of like moved backwards, unfortunately. So yeah, that's been another like big challenge, I think, with the crisis during this pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, it's like this pandemic has really, it's done a number on period poverty. I mean, a year ago, which I can't even believe I'm saying a year ago, but we were, you know, in class and we were doing research on this, working on our project. We were in the early stages of it, and it was hard to find information. We had, you know, we tried to reach out to people and it was hard to get people to respond. But this year we have been finding a lot of information, and like a lot of people that, I mean, most of the people that we've reached out to have said, yes, I want to talk about this. We should talk about this, spreading awareness. Like, so in a way, I mean, I guess one thing maybe this pandemic has done has given maybe a platform to the like need for awareness to be spread on period.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely a silver lining to this lockdown and this pandemic because even though like as you said earlier, it has made it so much worse because people can't just go out and buy products now or they don't have money to. But a lot of people that we've talked to have said that they've gotten so many donations from like people because they know how important it is. And so the public outreach, I guess, although it hasn't been like as spread out as we thought it was, it's definitely like more than normal, if that makes sense.
Have you seen any sense of community kind of come together to help out people going through period poverty this year?
That's a good question. I would say it's kind of hard for me to answer that question right now because the organization has like disbanded since like the summer of 2020. But I will say like in the early stages of the pandemic, like I definitely saw a lot of organizations like working to fix period poverty in Southeast Michigan, like really coming together and like trying to like raise resources and products like in a way that was like, because when you have organizations working together, you're obviously going to have more products and donations because you're reaching out to more circles. So we definitely saw like a major increase in that, and like a major increase in like coalitions between organizations even.
Yeah. You know, like that's, I think that like at the very least, people people are kind of getting this almost like sense of like a wake up call. Like their eyes are really being opened to this issue. It's like, oh wow, I never even realized how serious this is and um, how devastating it is
Yeah.
to, you know.
So you mentioned that you're currently studying public health. Do you think are you focusing on period poverty and menstrual equity and that? Like, do you think you'll be moving forward with those topics in the future?
Mm-hmm. I probably may, but I think my main focus is like maternal health and women's health more broadly, especially in refugee and immigrant communities. But I mean, even when working within that topic, I think period poverty is not something you can ignore because it's very essential to these populations. And especially working in global health, it's something we really need to focus on making more sustainable. Like the introduction of like period wear to different communities across the world is like would just make things so much easier, you know. But yeah, I would say I would be moving forward with that in I guess like a community based research type way instead of because before I think I was focusing on more like product drives and just like working with individual organizations, but now I think I would be focusing on it more in a research lens and a way to affect policy.
Yeah,
Oh, that's really cool. You know, like I think that you could do a lot with that. I mean, like you could like really spread awareness. You can maybe even get the attention of maybe like politicians, but also you could like get other people to kind of join you on that.
Right.
Like hey, let's be a team here and like really get the word out there. And you know, drives where you get products and everything, those are great. I mean, they really can make a huge difference for people. But what's another way that you're thinking maybe could really help people in period poverty?
Right. So I think I would agree with you with that. I think drives are a great way, especially like if it's like just community members who like have a lot of commitments and they want to help in some way, like that's a great way to get involved. But when we're looking at like public health research and like policy research, this is really about undoing the like male centric like ideas that we have in healthcare and that we have in policy. Like, so when we do research and we're trying to like look at the specific impacts that not having these period products has on these populations, so that can be mortality, that can be like infections, that can be like mental health, it can be all of these types of things. And so when you have like quantitative information like that and you take it to policymakers, especially ones like you guys mentioned earlier too, like women policymakers, like they can use that in the creation of their bill to justify those bills and like really change circumstances for not just individual communities, but really like broad populations.
Right. I totally had a question and I forgot it. I I'm so sorry. I like was like gonna ask you another question. I completely forgot. Sorry.
All right, I got a question.
Okay, good.
All right, so I know you're talking about how through your studies you're trying to work to fix this problem, I guess, on a grander scale. Like you're trying to build your platform to get like those policies passed to help women. What like we are not at that level yet. What do you think we can do right now, like in our community, to help, I guess, spread awareness about this?
Definitely. And I think I mean like I mentioned before, like drives are still like a really, really helpful way, especially if you're working with like local communities. But also another thing is if you work in a healthcare organization just like as a job or you know as a volunteer or even just like a political place. So sometimes I know like party offices are there as well. Um, or even like on political campaigns that maybe local candidates have running, like you can really push for this issue with those like political campaigns or within those healthcare organizations that you're working in. And that can have a broader effect too than, you know, maybe a drive, because you would really, if you're encouraging a candidate to push for like more equitable access to like period products and like that's something that they're going to promise, then that would have an effect on the entire community and maybe not just people who are going to an organization. But that's something that anyone can get involved in if they wish to. And you know, even like at an even lower level, just talking to, being aware of like what's going on with policy right now in period poverty, because in Michigan, I think it was about a year ago, we had a bill that was going to remove the luxury tax on period products and did. Um, but like a big part of that was like mobilizing our own communities and like talking to our family and our friends and like encouraging them to contact their senators to like promote passing this bill. So there's definitely still a lot of ways that like even if you're not in research or like academia or something, you can still like make impacts on that broad level.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of states who still have the tax. Like I think California still has it. So like there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's 50 states, and until all of them get on board with, you know, making it, removing the tax, there's progress to be made. Yeah, no, but I really like what you're saying though about like just pushing people, like, hey, like we can, like, it doesn't take much, like you don't have to have like a huge platform or anything, like you can just get your community, like your friends, your family, like educate the men in your life, just like to that this is an issue and that you can make a difference and you can really push on your you know, like on politicians in your state, just like you would really like, it would make a difference in for a lot of people, because once you're like your state, for example, like once other states start to see that, And once other communities start to see that, they're going to be like, oh, hey, like our state should do that. Like we should, like it should hopefully create like a ripple effect in the country and just really, you know, like make some change. Like, so yeah.
And actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I didn't mean to say that the like bill actually passed. I just meant to say that like a lot of the community members like got involved and like got closer than ever in passing it. But yeah, sorry, I misspoke.
No,
But
but you know, even that is a lot though. I mean, you guys really did a lot to even if the bill didn't pass, like you still tried to make a difference, and you could just push and spread awareness and get like your communities, and other communities will start to see that, and maybe another state will remove the tax, and maybe Michigan will be like, oh, we could do that too. You know, I mean, I just think that maybe it'll create kind of like a ripple effect, hopefully.
I do know that there was like a lawsuit in like summer 2020, I think in Michigan, that was like um I guess like suing against the legality of like taxing all these period products. So, you know, even that is a step forward, because if it's not succeeding in like the state senate, you could just take it to the courts instead and then get a ruling that way.
I mean, it's ridiculous. There's some items that aren't taxed, like candy and soda and I don't know, like silly string in some states, and it's just like period products are just a basic need for people.
Yeah, like thanks. You know, that time of the month is coming up. I better go get my silly string.
Yeah.
Like, well, damn,
Exactly.
what am I gonna do without that candy? Like, oh man, I'm bleeding through all my pants, but hey, I got my silly string. Yeah. Well, that's. How much you want to bet? Sorry, just how much you want to bet? That was enforced by men, probably. Oh my god, I'm okay. Zoom is trying to cut me off again. Did it pop up on your guys' screen?
Yes, I do see
Oh
that.
my god, why does it do this to me? Okay, I'm sorry.
It happened at our last meeting too.
I know.
Okay,
You know
well,
why?
I guess
Because I don't want to pay for Zoom. So.
No, I do that.
Well, I guess before we get cut off, did you have anything else to add, maybe to like the listeners or to us before we kind of say our goodbyes?
Uh yeah, I would just say like keep getting involved with policy, keep doing these drives. And also, by the way, this like podcast that you guys are doing is a great way to just like spread awareness about the severity. So I really love that you guys are doing it.
Thank you.
But yeah, but that's all I really have to say.
You're in college, right?
Yeah, I'm finishing up right now.
Oh. Yeah, we're seniors in high school, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, so we'll be in college soon. But I just think it's cool, like, to the Flow listeners or anything, like, you're in college. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Ooh, she's 21. 20 fun. No, but I mean, like, you know, like you're like 21 and you're out here like making some change in your community, you know, like making a difference. Like you're really pushing for like you're really pushing to resolve an issue that a lot of people don't even know about. So that's really cool. Super inspiring. Really, I admire that a lot. I think that like if anyone is gonna be the one to like if any generation is going to be the one to actually like end period poverty, it's probably going to be like our like younger generation, you know, like I mean, like
Yeah,
we're
I feel like especially because we're not like we don't view this as a taboo topic as recent generations did, and we're not afraid to like we're not afraid to step out and say, hey, this is like wrong.
Yeah,
Shouldn't happen.
like yeah, like we're I mean like our ages here, we're between 17 and 21. We're not afraid to be like, hey, women bleed. Like, women get periods. And guess what? Some women have no pads or tampons or anything. So, does that seem fair? But they got silly string though. Like, yeah.
I guess you do.
Yeah, no, we're definitely, I mean, I think that even like when like the sisters that we interviewed the other day were like, it's gonna be the younger generation to make a difference.
Definitely, yeah. I remember when I first started like the period chapter at my like university, and like I was posting about it and I was obviously like trying to get more attention to it. And like a lot of the older women in my family were like, "Oh my God, like we don't do that. Like that's like a white people thing. Like you shouldn't like talk about it." And I was like, "No, like it's, you know, like it's for all of us too. Like it's not like only white women bleed, you know, like
I was just gonna
it's
say,
all
like, white women are not the only ones that bleed.
right."
Oh my god.
So before you go, is there anywhere you'd like people to find you, or any place people could go to learn more? Or do you have any
Shout out
social?
your Instagram.
I mean,
um
if not, it's fine.
Yeah, I will shout out like a few organizations that I know of that do like a lot of work. So there's at codered.co on Instagram. They do a lot of amazing work. And there's also at Operation Period. And they're not white feminist focused. Like they're both very focused on helping like women of color and lower income women, and they're very gender inclusive as well. So yeah, definitely check out those organizations on Instagram.
All right, so we will put those on our website with this.
They'll be linked.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. We had a lot of fun, and
It was
we
nice talking to
learned.
you guys.
It was super nice talking to you. We learned a lot, and we really appreciate your time for being here. We know that you are probably super busy, being all 21 and in college. So,
Yeah, I mean, on that note, like, if you guys are going to college next year and if you need any help or advice or anything, like, you can also definitely reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help.
oh,
Thank
Thank you.
you.
oh my god, you're so nice.
Of course, yeah. Feel free. You guys all have my email, right? So yeah.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for being here again. Thank you for the work that you do for period poverty. It's really inspiring and it means a lot to a lot of women out there.
Yeah, thank you
So,
guys for having this podcast.
all right, Caitlin, you want to do your little closing remarks?
All right. So that concludes today's episode of The Flow. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Go with the flow.
Thank
Here, I'll stop recording.
you.